Okay, so now we're to shift gears, get over into ancient Africa. And it's important to understand that ancient Africa isn't all Egypt, and it's not always about all right, it's mostly Egypt. I can't really deny that because they're awesome. Okay, so if we're going to talk about Egypt, and we're naturally going to get into it first, we need to go to North Africa. And, well, North Africa is the home of, everyone, and we talked about that in previous um, videos, and the first settlements that we see are in northern Africa, the Sudan, Egypt, Libya, places like that. And interestingly enough, 10,000 years ago, this was a great place to live because it was a vast grassland and jungle and just incredible place to live. Um, and then, unfortunately, some things will change. Really, though, the main areas where we do see settlements and where we have found them, again, modern day Egypt and the Sudan. And the main crops we look at is sorghum, along with things like sheep and goats. And by about 5000 BCE, we are going to see some city states, which you already know a little bit about. Okay, and these are some old Iron Age sites, but these are really, Stone Age sites are the black dots. And as we see, North Africa is our predominant area. We're going to see some groups over here. That's going to be a little bit different. We'll talk about them later. All right, so then something drastically changed. We don't know why. It's called climate change. Look it up. We'll talk about it later. But something happens in the Sahara and it becomes a desert. It, of course, is a desert that is bigger than our country today. And so now the population has to move, and it has to move around the Nile River, Lake Chad. And around this time, we get the creation of the areas that will become Egypt and Nubia, because it really is going to focus around the Nile River. And of course, we have the Nile. Now, the Nile is crucial. It starts up in Ethiopia. It's a river that really floods regularly, which is great. It leaves great soil behind, to the point where in ancient Egypt they really didn't even need to farm. All they had to do was like drop seeds and have some cows walk over them and they would grow grain. It was pretty incredible. We also see widespread irrigation. We do see an early development of the plow and catchment systems for water. And here just gives you an idea of what it looks like. This green, of course, this is so crucial. And the Nile, of course, the longest river in the world, over 4,100 miles long, and the only river that flows from south to north. And these are the cataracts. These are these waterfalls and other areas where you tend to have to get out of your boat. Here is an ancient Egyptian fortress, okay? And there are some examples of the irrigation, much of which is used today. This gives you an idea where it comes. There's only so far you can go, and boom, right there, desert. It is full of life. You've got hippos, which can actually kill you, and more people kill hippos than anyone else in the world, than any other animal in Africa. Actually, more than lions, more than crocodiles, stuff like that. That is a fish that you can catch, and you've got an ibex, which is also very nice. But the scary things are the crocodiles. That is a Nile crocodile. As you can see, all those guys, just look at its leg. Crazy. All right, so the actual country, if you will, of Egypt would be created sometime between 5000 and 3000 BCE. It starts off as villages. Those villages grow into cities. Those cities grow into city-states. And then what you end up having by around 3000 BCE or so, you have two empires within Egypt. There is Upper and Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt is actually below Lower Egypt because it's closer to the source of the Nile. That would change with this man by the name of Menes, or Narmer. And this, we think, is a bust of him, and this is the palette of Narmer, him grabbing this guy by the hair because he's awesome. We believe it is Menes that actually was the first one to create modern-day Egypt. He was able to conquer both Upper and Lower Egypt and form them into one country. Now, I use the word country, and many people refer to Egypt as the world's first nation because everybody was Egyptian. In those Middle Eastern empires, you had the empire would take control, but you would have all these other groups of people that weren't really like, if I'm not an Akkadian, I don't see myself as being in the Akkadian Empire. They're just the guys in charge. However, everybody who lived in Egypt was Egyptian. He set up a capital, Memphis, and really developed the title of Pharaoh. Now, this is crucial. The Pharaoh, really up until probably the Pope in the Middle Ages, was the most powerful person in the known world. He was a king and a living god. So he was the church and state all rolled up into one. And you'll see a video later on about Egyptian culture. He had completely control of everything. And what is developed underneath Menes is known as the Dynasty System. Okay, a dynasty is a series of rulers from one family. Now, if that family dies, there's normally a little bit of bickering back and forth. Somebody else comes in control, but after that, but it is indeed Menes who creates that. So he's a tremendously influential person because of the role that Egypt plays in the ancient world. So, and to give you an idea of how long ancient Egypt lasts, guys, this area with a couple in-between periods, I mean, you're talking about an empire or a nation that existed for over 2,000 years, which is crazy. And to give you an idea, around the time of, say, Jesus in the Middle Ages, they had been gone for 1,000 years. That's how long they had lasted. Now, this particular time period is known as the Archaic Period or the Old Kingdom. So right around 3100 to about 2100. So the Old Kingdom or the First Kingdom lasts 1,000 years. Think about that. We're only a little bit over 200 years there. They lasted 1,000. You're going to centralize power. This is going to be big about building massive architecture, which we'll talk about, and writing. We do have writing established. It'll be hieroglyphics. We will talk about that a little bit later, but that's why we know so much about Egypt, because they like to write a lot. But really, the most impressive stuff from this ancient period is not only the establishment of the pharaoh, but the building of the pyramids. And these are probably the most incredible structures ever built by humans, period, especially because even today we don't even know how they were done. And they basically went in a step-by-step period, okay? So here is an example just of some writing, okay? And you have some gods mixed in. That's Anubis over there on the right. So this was the first big pyramid they built. This is the step pyramid of Zoser at the city of Saqqara, and Zoser was a pharaoh, and here you see people. And so this was built in your traditional steps, and a lot of people always try to, give me this alien crap, and I don't want to hear it. The thing is that a pyramid is actually an easier structure to build because all the sides press against each other. So it was, if you wanted to build something big, it actually made a lot of sense to build a step pyramid. And so that's the first step, if you will. Then there was the Bed Pyramid of Sinestro. It's called the Bed Pyramid because you see these sides were going up, and they realized if they went up, continued at this angle, that it would collapse, or they wouldn't have enough stone to build it up too high. So they had to bend it or cut off the angle so it goes and then straight down. The first true pyramid that was ever built was the Red Pyramid, so because of the color of the stone. But then you had the Great Pyramids, the pyramids of Khufu. Okay, he was the first one. Khafre, or Khephren, his son, and then his grandson, Menkaure. Again, the most incredible structures ever built by man. And let's look at it close up. You see there the giant blocks. And here's just a guy just kind of chilling out. This gives you an idea how big the blocks were. Okay, so let's talk about the Great Pyramid. The Egyptians did not use the wheel or wheeled carts, so the 2.3 million blocks that it took to build the pyramids were hauled by hand. They actually built a village that was really close to the pyramid so that people could live there. It is a myth the pyramid was not built by slaves. The Egyptians had slaves, but the pyramid was not built by them. It was built by craftsmen and laborers that were paid. Most of the blocks are 2 tons, and there's one block in the king's chamber that is 9 tons. Um, it's just incredible. We think they may have used ramps. They might have actually had some cranes because they did have the pulleys. Um, it took about 20 years to build. It's just incredible. And the notes are a little bit deeper, but this just gives you, so here's the outside of the pyramid. They built these chambers, okay, in it. Okay, this is for the pharaoh, this is for the queen, okay, and you have some other different chambers that were in there as well. We'll talk again more in class about it. Um, these things you're not sure if you're going up or down because you can't build it too high because it has to be very effective. And this is the king's chamber. These stones up top here that are 25 feet off the ground, they weigh about 9 tons. And this was just a single sarcophagus that, and this entire area would have actually been filled with treasure for the king, which we'll talk about why later. Unfortunately, it had been looted. He was also buried with this boat. That gives you an idea of just how huge it was, and that is what they would have looked like. The pyramids were actually capped with white limestone. The top piece was covered in gold, and it's just intimidation. Imagine sailing into this area, and would you mess with these guys? There's no way. There's just no way. They were too powerful. They were too strong. They were too scary. I mean, it is just absolutely incredible. And there's so many mysteries about the pyramids that I want to talk more about in class. I'm not going to get them into them too much here, but it's stuff I want you to read in the notes. But we have the establishment of one of the greatest cultures of all time. It goes back with Menes, and this first 1,000-year period was starting to expand the empire a little bit, getting the whole idea of the pharaoh in place, and building this incredible architecture. All right, and so we're going to talk about these guys a lot more. We've got a few more videos, and I'll see you guys soon.